I'm making this video today to discuss a little bit about when it comes to finding inspiration and finding your path when you're doing photography, but not just specifically about photography. I want to go on a little bit about finding your path in general in life. I'm not necessarily one to talk about this because I'm just a 24-year-old who's still trying to even find what he's supposed to do, still lost, not really sure what I'm doing, but there are a few things that I've learned along the way that I would like to share with you guys. So let's get started. So in case you guys don't know me, my name is Nicholas. I'm from Cyprus. I'm 24, as I said before. I'm currently a 5th year medical student in Thessaloniki, Greece. I began photography around 6.5 years ago. It's been quite a while now. I started during the COVID pandemic, which is a bit funny because I started when you couldn't even leave the house for a while. So I was just taking pictures inside the house and through my window. But it became something that helped me curate my mindset along the way. And I wanted to share some of my experiences when it comes to finding your path in photography, because I think over the years I've experimented with so many different kinds of photographic topics, such as weddings, products, and street photography, which is the main thing I deal with now. I deal with a lot of humanist work, so I focus a lot on people and their background. An author that really had an impact on the way I think and growing up these last few years and trying to improve myself, especially through photography, is Robert Greene. Now, in my opinion, he might be talked about too much, but there was one thing that really stuck out to me in his book Mastery, where he talked about visceral feeling of attraction towards a certain passion or something that you feel viscerally attracted to. With me, for example, when I feel that I'm attracted to a certain topic, like let's say photography, I feel like I'm about to cry, which is a bit weird, but I suddenly get like tears behind my eyes forming, or it's like almost my body's way of telling me that, hey, you actually really like this thing and you're really attracted to it, so you should work harder to curate that kind of mindset that would go for something like that. So devote yourself to that thing. And I think it's very weird as humans that we feel something like that. You know, our bodies change in a certain way when we feel an attraction towards something that, you know, is higher than us. I believe that is one thing that in photography we should look for. What kind of photography is it that makes us feel a sort of visceral feeling? For me, that kind of element of humanist work, for example, a lot of street photographers, or things like people like Robert Capa or Henri Cartier-Bresson, their work really meant a lot for me. Like when I saw some of the photos, especially from D-Day, the 11 photos that were recovered from Robert Capa, those really made an impression on me. And his work in Spanish dictatorship, when he was documenting the work there, that really meant a lot to me. Or work such as Mohamed Mukhaisen, which is a photographer that I really look up to. That's the kind of work that I'm attracted to, or I literally feel that my body is aching to produce work like that. When I look at photographic documentation, that is something that I'm attracted to. But for you guys watching this video, you might think the same things or feel the same ways looking at different kinds of photography, like landscapes or portraits. Try to find things that capture a form of visceral feeling from you. Something else I want to talk about a bit is when I'm dealing with my photos, I like to think of them as living entities, which is a bit weird. And when you feel a certain image and you feel that, okay, perhaps I should edit it in a certain way, or curate it, or think about how would I compose it so that it says something to me, or it says something to the viewer. You want your images to speak. I like to create my work as if it is talking to me. It says something in my head, I produce it, and then I formulate it or I create it, let's say in Lightroom, I edit it in a certain way. That is something that has helped me get closer to how I want to portray my work, or my path, so to speak. Finding one's path is quite literally a struggle. It is a struggle of the self. You're going to work very hard finding your path. It is brute force work. There's no getting around that. There's no getting around the fact that you need to work to find yourself or to create yourself. It's not about necessarily finding your path, it's about creating your path. There might be a completely niche style of photography that someone, or is not really existent. Let's say that it doesn't really exist, but you think about these things in your head, so you need to go out there and create them. One habit that I have of trying to find any kind of work to emulate is I go on Pinterest. Usually I go on Pinterest when I'm bored in class, and sometimes instead of doom scrolling, let's say, I just go on Pinterest and look at work that makes me feel that visceral feeling. Or my photo project, for example, I created a photo project recently when I was in China called the Black and White Country Project, and I wanted to highlight the stark contrast between everyday life there, between the people, and the rapid progression of the country over the last 40 years. And I wanted to specifically compare people then and now with how much the country has progressed. I talk a lot more about that in my last video, so if you want, you can go and check that out, where I made a video specifically on the project. And I highly encourage you to go check out my work on my website, where you can see all my photos from there. I highly encourage one to constantly seek out inspiration, both through photo books, other photo projects, and especially through Pinterest, because I think that that's an amazing place to find, or to curate the algorithm to be giving you things that are very similar to what you would be looking for. That is one place that I would, so to speak, push the algorithm to show you something. Another thing I want to talk about is, why does one start photography in the first place? Did you begin photography because you just wanted to take better pictures of your surroundings and your landscape, the houses, the pretty flowers? If that's it, okay, fine. If you want to go a bit deeper, if you wanted to go a bit deeper, what got you interested? Did you purposefully start it because you saw a picture and that really resonated with you and you said, oh, that's something that I would like to pursue? Because if it is, then let's say, for example, you saw a picture and you wanted to start emulating that kind of work. That said something to you. That said something to you deeply. So you should look into that. You should try to go back to what made you feel a certain way when you began photography. For me, it was purely to better document what was around me. And over time, I started seeing my progress in my photos, because you can go on my Instagram, for example, and look at my first images. And my first images, I consider now looking at them as almost awful. But back then, I thought they were great, or I thought I was doing something that was different. For example, I had a friend of mine who was amazing at drawing. He could just come up with something in his head and just draw it on a piece of paper with a pen. That was it. It took no effort to him. And I was jealous. I will admit that I was jealous watching him. And I used to try to draw, and I could just never focus on it. It wasn't that I didn't want to learn. I do want to learn. I still encourage even photographers to look at paintings as well, because paintings and drawings always incorporate light, and you always have to incorporate light, and light is the pure all of photography. Without light, there is no photography. So I encourage you to also branch out, look at movies, look at different things. But going back onto the main thing that I was saying, you have to ask yourself why you began in the first place. And when you understand the why, then you'll know every how. That is something, if I remember correctly, from Nietzsche, that you should understand your why. before you can go on to your how. Did you begin photography to express something that you felt? If you did, then look and try to remember or try to look back on your previous work and think, what is it that I'm trying to express? What is it that I'm trying to go back to express for the future? Because you always have material from the past. Remember this. You always have material to go back on, to look back on. You don't have material for the future. That is something you need to create. So I stress this again. You don't have material for the future. That is something you need to create. What you do have is material from the past. And you should look back on it constantly to improve yourself. And this isn't just with photography, this is with everything. I've tripped up many times, I'm still tripping up all the time in everything I do. With my workouts, with trying to start my own things online, and especially with my photography. I'm still very disappointed in some of the things I do, or some of the photos I consider good, but I still use them, I still keep them there. And I'm never going to throw them away because they're always good examples of things to learn from. So always look at your past and see what you can create from the future. If I'm to leave off with one thing, it is this. You don't want to find a path. You want to create a path. That path is for you to create, not for anyone else. And it's not just about creating one path, and that's it. You want to curate that path continuously. You want to maintain it. And in the end, you might destroy that path entirely. You might go to a completely different direction. You might change topic, and then go to a completely different art form. That's not bad. The point is, you create your own path. No one else creates it for you. No one else will tell you how to do photography. Because if that's the case and you're just copying someone else's work, you're just going to be a lesser version of them. So it is for you to create. It is not for anyone else to remember that. Until next time.